This week at Bungie, we're talking weapons. This is it, the last TWAB of the season. It's been a blast watching Guardians splice their way through the Vex network, tackle Vault of Glass, and pile up a ton of new rewards during Season of the Splicer. We have jam-packed a lot of Destiny moments since Beyond Light debuted last fall. As we prepare to look forward next week, let's take a look back at some of the most epic Destiny moments, and they have like a little trailer here of a bunch of stuff that's happened throughout the year, bigger content creator reactions, that kind of thing. It's interesting. I would definitely recommend watching it if you have an interest in that at all. First up is weapon tuning. So next week's update is ushering in a new season and a big sandbox update to go with it. We have already covered ability tuning here, armor and mod changes here, which are two different links to the previous two big This Week's at Bungie's they did the last 2 weeks. And now it's time to go over what is changing with weapons. And they give us over to weapon feature lead Chris Proctor. Let's see here. We've got a lot to talk about for Season 15, including stasis weapons, a rework of fusion rifles, and several changes intended to make certain weapons more relevant in the new activity and new artifact mods. Let's clarify by talking about terminology. Let's see here. Some of the recent info on weapons we put out has been confusing, and while I generally like to use our internal terms for concepts where possible, in some cases, these require too much explanation to use them externally. Here are some definitions and clarifications to help. Fall off. Internally, we use fall off minimum and fall off maximum to mean the start and end, but moving forward, we'll use these externally, using damage as an example, but the same logic applies to aim assist, and all of that. So damage fall off start is the distance at which damage fall off begins, or maximum damage stops being done. Damage fall off end is the distance in which damage fall off ends or hits the lowest amount of damage it'll do. Projectiles. We've used various terms to describe these types externally, including borrowed terms from other genres, but have settled on these. Hit scan. Projectile that instantly hits applies to most weapons in the game. For example, auto rifles, hand cannons, fusion rifles, fully drawn bows at most distances. I think that means that if you're really, really far away with a bow, I think it might actually just be a straight projectile. I'm not sure. I think Fallout had a video about that. Maybe. Somebody did. Non-hit scan, projectile with travel time, sometimes having physics bounces, and often leaving explosive damage or homing. For example, rocket launchers, grenade launchers, partially drawn bows, Jotun. Shotguns, spread angle, the cone that pellets come out of. Not to be confused with one of the other types of cones, this determines the size of the outer ring below that they talk about. Destiny 2 shotguns don't have pure RNG for pellet distribution, though yes, it sure feels like it sometimes, which seems worth diving into. A shotgun shot contains 12 pellets spread across 3 rings as follows. The center ring, 1 pellet right dead center in the middle. Inner ring, 4 wedges with 1 pellet in each wedge. Outer ring, 7 wedges with 1 pellet in each. So aside from the center, which is in a fixed location, each pellet is only randomized inside a defined wedge angle and inner-outer radius. From my understanding, what that basically means is like there's a bunch of triangles, and where that shotgun pellet can go, each one of those can only go in any area in that little triangle. So like it looks like it's a random pattern, but it kind of isn't when you look at it, I guess, like as a whole. Oh, hey, Virus, thank you for contributing to the Talos Principle community goal once again. We are getting incredibly close to finishing that. I really appreciate it. Let's see here. Global. Season 15 introduces legendary stasis weapons, and we've seen some concern about how these are intended to work, particularly in PvP, so here are some details. Stasis power weapons are in the power slot, but all other stasis weapons are in the kinetic slot. This is to avoid overcrowding the energy slot, and so that it's reasonable to use one in match game content. The kinetic slot won't be renamed at this time. It means they probably are going to rename it at some point in the future. It'd be interesting to see what they decide to rename it. Stasis weapons don't intrinsically do anything different from weapons of other damage types, but they are the only weapons that can roll with stasis perks. We generally intend stasis perks with slowing or freezing effects to have a kill trigger. which means they're probably going to be ones that don't have slower freezing effects, which is going to be interesting, potentially. I'm interested to see what all these stasis perks are going to be. This being easy enough to trigger in PvE and fun to use but not obnoxious to play in PvP. I imagine there's going to be some type of like stasis version of kill clip where you get a kill and then your next shot freezes somebody or something. I don't know. But that might home in too close on the cryosthesia sidearm, so I actually am not sure. Let's see here. Now that we've addressed Quick Draw's permanent +1 handling buff, we see more people using the Quick Swap glitch. The glitch uses combinations of input and animation cancel, allowing near instant weapon swaps. We want the handling stat to continue to have value on weapons and don't want, for example, aggressive shotguns to lose their key downside, slow swapping, due to an unintentional side effect of the animation system. So they have fixed the quick swap glitch. Ooh, sad faces for everyone who could do that. I couldn't. I don't really care. Running out of primary ammo has never been tactically interesting. Running out in hard PvE content or because you were on a tear in PvP was a weird and sometimes frustrating experience that we would like to not subject anyone to in the future. Oh ho, all primary ammo weapons now have infinite ammo. That's a really nice change, actually. And one that I was actually kind of arguing with one of my clan members a little bit. Her and I had a disagreement over whether or not they were going to do that. And I will fully admit I was on the side that they would never do that. So I will gladly eat crow in that situation. So I was wrong. They apparently are going to get rid of primary ammo pickups, which is cool. Yeah, that is awesome, Virus. It's fantastic. Let's see here. Inertia Override has been adjusted to account for there being no primary bricks. That's a Titan. It's a Titan ability. Drop mag's downside of reducing reserve ammo is now almost meaningless. Reworked it to be reload speed higher, magazine size lower, which is interesting. I have a few guns with drop mag that I'm not sure I want to use anymore, depending on how low that magazine gets, which makes me kind of sad. Compact arrow shafts upside, same as drop mags, higher reload. Oh, no, different. Higher reload, higher handling. Okay. Let's see. Updated other perks that refer to reserves in a way that's no longer accurate. See notes on Fighting Lion and Sweet Business in the exotic section below. Target farming trials weapons is much more efficient in season 15, and we have some cool new perks for players to play with that we wanted to put on trials weapons. All trials weapons available in season 15 now have 7 perks in each column that may potentially roll. That's pretty decent. Actually, it's pretty good. Let's see here. When max power levels on weapons launched, we reissued several weapons. We saw how frustrated players were at having to regrind their favorite rolls since the perk pools hadn't changed. Based on that, our reissue guidelines from Season 13 onwards were to replace most of the perks. Turns out that was an overcorrection, and that certain perks in the original pools had become part of the identity of a weapon. Moving forwards, the guidelines for reissues will be to remove the least useful 2 to 3 perks and add 2 to 3 newer perks that give the weapon some new options and may result in an entirely new top tier rolls without removing the old top tier roll. I like that. We've made some small adjustments to the weapons reissued in the 3.2.1 update to move these in the direction of the new reissues guidelines. And if you're wondering why our community managers were asking for everyone's favorite rolls, now you know why. I figured it had to be something like that. They don't always do like polls like that for just shits and giggles. I mean, sometimes they do, but not all the time. Added 1 or 2 of the original perks to each column for the Luna weapons. So moon weapons, lectern weapons only. Okay. So like your loud lullabies, stuff like that. Let's see here. Since these can be target farmed, we're okay with increasing the size of the perk pools in this case. Added 1 of the original perks to 1 or both columns for the Dreaming City weapons, Tiger Spite, Twilight Oath, and Abide the Return. Since these can't be target farmed yet, which that's... I'm going to make a prediction right now that we are going to the Dreaming City next week. We're going to have an activity at the Dreaming City, and this yet means we're going to be able to target farm Dreaming City weapons starting next season. Like, I'm really certain that's what it's going to be now. So it'll be interesting to see, and I will again eat crow if I'm wrong. will absolutely eat crow if I'm wrong. So that we didn't want to increase the size of the pools by more than one. Okay. Archetypes. Note, exotics receive these changes as written unless otherwise mentioned in the exotic section below. Breach grenade launchers are increasing as a pain point in PvP, and with the shotgun nerf, we're seeing a small increase in usage. This change aims to reduce the ease of getting big splash damage for priming or cleaning up targets. We'll watch how things change and make further adjustments in the future update if needed. Note that we're fine with how they perform in PvE, so have compensated there. Reduced blast radius by 0.4 meters, i.e. max blast radius decreased from 4.55 to 4.15 meters. Minimum blast radius decreased from 3.80 to 3.40 meters. Reduced splash damage by 20, which reduces total damage for a direct hit from 220 to 200 before taking spike or proximity grenades into account. Okay, that makes sense. I understand that. That'll be good for PvP. Increased damage in PvE by 12% because of the above splash damage change. This results in a small overall buff to combined damage. Wither Horde is unaffected, so anybody who likes to use a big old goo gun, you will have no issues. While machine gun usage is surprisingly high, we felt that they weren't fulfilling their intended role in high difficulty content. Ammo efficient ad clear and secondary single target sustained damage. Increased damage in PvE by 20%. Your goo gun, yeah, your goo gun is just fine, Virus. Goo gun is absolutely okay. Scout rifles and hand cannons have felt weaker than we'd like to in hard PvE content for a while. Damage increased versus minor enemies by 15%. Fusion rifles have benefited indirectly from the mid-season 14 shotgun nerf, but fusion rifle subfamilies weren't as different from each other as we wanted, and weren't all useful in a variety of content. So we looked at all the options we had for diversifying them and ended up with some substantial changes. This isn't intended to be a global buff to fusion rifles, but we expect some of these to be better contenders or better counters to other weapons than they were previously. Note, we have also evaluated some other options which are worth a bit of discussion. Looks like they considered giving projectiles travel time. We did like the idea of this behavior in Destiny 1, but on investigation found that there was networking issues with firing rapid bursts of non-hit scan projectiles, and they didn't play as well as we wanted them to. We may look at this option again in the future. Burst rate of fire. This would have meant touching design data and audio for every fusion rifle we've ever shipped, well beyond the scope we wanted to for this change, and also not that interesting of a change. I would say that would be an interesting change if an exotic fusion rifle had like a burst fire situation. I would be okay with that. Let's see here. Increased PvE damage bonus, such that all subfamilies have a 15% PvE bonus. Previously, high impact was 0, precision and adaptive were 10, and rapid fire was 12.5. Okay, so all subfamilies are going to be much better in PvE. That's really good. That gives me a reason to use them more, especially with the mods we're getting next season. Unstoppable Fusion Rifle and Jotun is going to be stupid. It's going to be like beyond stupidly amazing. Pushed subfamilies further apart. Adjusted charging time, shots fired per burst was 7 for all subfamilies, and damage. Note that the base below means without battery perks, a charge time masterwork, or the adept charge time mod. High impact charge slower and while strong require more planning to use effectively. Base charge time increased from 0.86 seconds to 1 second. Shots per burst reduced from 7 to 5. Reduced total damage per burst. In playtesting, we found that charging these in the open is super risky, but pre-charging around corners or otherwise in safety is very effective. With the reduced shots per burst, these are now less reliant on stability, so can stack a bit more range. Okay, that's a change I'm alright with. That makes sense. Plus, I don't think I use a lot of high-impact fusions, so I really don't care that much. Let's see here. Precisions and adaptives are close to unchanged. Base charge time is unchanged. Shots per burst is unchanged at 7. A very slightly increased total damage per burst. In playtesting, we feel that these are very effective all around without stepping on the niches of high impacts and rapid fires. I'll be keeping a good plug 1 for PvP. Yeah, plug 1 in PvP is kind of scary good. At least according to one of my clan members. I have seen her go on a tear with that thing. That just scares me a little bit. Rapid fires charge faster, allowing them to be used reactively against charging enemies or aggressively when pushing forward. Base charge time decreased from 0.54 to 0.46 seconds. Shot per burst increased from 7 to 9. Okay, that's cool. Increased total damage per burst. In playtesting, we found that these are very effective against shotgun rushers. The combination of them needing to be closer and you having a shorter charge time work well together, and if you have good enough timing, you can fire 2 bursts with a rapid fire before a high-impact user finishes charging their first. Oh, okay, that's gonna make the fusion rifle game really interesting. Really interesting. With the increased shots per burst, these are now more reliant on stability, but with the base damage increased, they're less reliant on range. Yeah, oh snap indeed, Virus. It's going to be an interesting... that alone is going to be interesting. Parts of this rework adjusted several fusion rifle perks and one mod. Backup Plan's implementation was incompatible with the fusion rifle changes, and we felt like the perk could use a rework anyway. Removed the plus 100 charge time stat, adjusted charge time multiplier from 0.85 to 0.7, now scales damage by 0.8. Liquid coils and accelerated coils needed a rework for similar reasons, both converted to scale charge time and damage instead of modifying the charge time stat. The final effect is much the same as before, but these are now more robust, however they won't visibly change the charge time stat in the inspection screen. That might be a little confusing until I'm used to it then. Adept charge time mod felt pointless, and we felt like it would still be balanced against other mods if it didn't reduce damage. Changed functionality to scale charge time directly instead of changing the charge time stat without adjusting the damage. Okay, that makes sense. A note on charge time Masterwork. A fusion rifle's damage is determined by its charge time stat, similar to how most other weapons' damage is determined by their rate of fire stat. Masterworks can only increase weapon stats for performance reasons, so it is not possible to change how charge time maps onto damage without big changes to how the charge time stat works. We investigated doing this by making the Masterwork a perk, but that would cause fusion rifles to exceed the perk budget, resulting in bad things happening, as mentioned in a prior TWAB. Yo! Hey! What up, Tuna? Thank you for the lurk. How are you doing, my friend? Let's see here. With the fusion rifle rework, we feel this Masterwork is more viable. It now rarely reduces bolts to kills, so may feel not like a downgrade in the same way as before. We'll be watching to see how this plays out and have some options to address the issue if that's still needed. Oh yeah, I do know. I absolutely know. That's just how life is, my friend. Exotics. Alright. So, the Anarchy Exotic Grenade Launcher has been dominant for years, now that we're ignoring the season with Sweet Grenade Launcher artifact mods, of course, which is this season. Being near mandatory for certain raid bosses, combined with double slug shotguns, as well as excelling as a solo weapon for ad clears in some encounters. We like that it's a great choice for hard solo content and trapping enemy spawns, choke points, but didn't want it to remain part of a dominant tactic for boss damage, and particularly don't want it to be great for boss damage and ad clears in a single encounter. With this change, we expect it to remain strong without borderline usable as a primary weapon. Reduced total reserve plus magazine ammunition from 26 to 16. Okay, that's a pretty decent... That's a pretty decent cut in ammo, actually. But it is warranted. Reduced damage by 30% versus bosses. Champions are not bosses. Okay, so it'll still be really useful in Grandmasters, but it won't just be like a 6-stack boss melter, so that's good. Xenophage was already top-notch, so didn't need to benefit from the global machine gun buff. It does benefit from the damage per bullet buff to machine guns, but now has a slower rate of fire to compensate, resulting in slightly lower damage per second, but higher burst and sustained damage, since it's now more ammo efficient. Reduced rate of fire from 120 to 90 RPM, receives less of the machine gun PvE damage buff. Okay, that's fair. Nerf, nerf, nerf. I mean, Anarchy needed it. Anarchy absolutely needed it, Virus. Like, it really did. Fighting Lion has always been fun but not dominant in PvE, so we weren't worried about the impact infinite ammo would have there. However, enabling fast, unlimited grenade spamming was too much in PvP based on internal playtests, so we've addressed that specific case without significantly impacting its feel in PvE. Fighting Lion reserve ammo increased from a lot to infinite. Receives the same changes as other breach loading grenade launchers. Reduced base reload stat to 0. Breach grenade launchers with 0 reload stat reload very, very slowly. Now increases reload speed to its previous level on damaging multiple enemies with one grenade. We'll be keeping an eye on this, but believe it's in a good place with this change, and note that we're not going to over-nerf an exotic with its own subreddit. You shouldn't be manually reloading Fighting Lion anyways. I mean, they have a point. They do have a point. You shouldn't be manual. You should never manually reload Fighting Lion. Vex Mythoclast. We were cautious with tuning this one at launch, knowing that shipping a dominant weapon that has incredibly low ownership would break PvP and aimed for, quote, balance, but erring on the side of not letting it ship too strong. However, it fell short of balanced. Ownership is much higher now, and we want it to be strong enough to be a desirable reward from Vault of Glass. PvE damage bonus increased by 40%. Range stat increased to be near best in class for high impact auto rifles. Increased stability stat, reworked catalyst to grant stability and damage after a kill. Increased rate of fire from 360 to 390. Reduced linear fusion rifle mode charge time from 820 to 533. Same as standard linear fusion. No longer loses overcharge stacks on stow except when in linear fusion mode. Okay. Okay, that actually sounds very reasonable. Merciless. We had to touch this anyway because of the fusion rifle changes and figured if we're in there, we might as well make a buff we've been thinking about. Updated perk to account for fewer shots per burst should build up charge rate at the same amount per burst as before. Reduced the damage penalty for increasing charge rate by 40%. Okay. Jotun. Because of how the charge time stat works with the fusion rifle changes, we made a small change to avoid breaking this weapon. In playtesting, it makes almost no difference, but if I didn't mention it, someone would notice. Reduced charge time from 0.82 seconds to 0.78 seconds. Slightly reduced damage per shot. Okay, I can live with that. Bastion feels very strong with shotguns being less dominant, so we're preemptively adjusting it in PvP. It's also super low usage in PvE, so we're buffing it there too. Reduced damage by 15%. Can now not quite kill a Guardian with one shot in the 3-shot burst it fires. Okay, so you have to hit at least 2 of your 3-shot burst. That's a good change. Increased spread angle by 10%, increased PvE damage by 25%. So overall, around 10% increase in PvE. Okay. Sweet Business's perk refilling the magazine when picking up primary ammo no longer works in a world without primary ammo. So it's been adjusted. Now refills magazine on picking up special and heavy. Okay. Perks. Firing line. We like the idea of the perk. It was just giving away a bit too much damage for almost free. Reduced damage bonus to 20% precision damage for all supported weapon archetypes. Was highly variable depending on weapon type. We'll roll on some sniper rifles, linear fusions, and machine guns, and maybe some other stuff in the future. Okay. Okay. I'm interested to see what that does. Certain damage perks only affected impact damage on explosive weapons. We've updated these specific perks to also increase detonation damage. Kill clip, rampage, adrenaline junkie. Okay. Also fixed incorrect rarity on some recently shipped weapon perks. Visual effects. Weapon visual effects were all custom and some didn't meet our desired cool factor, so we've rebuilt these to speed up the process of adding new weapons or updating old ones, while updating the visuals at the same time. Updated all grenade launcher and rocket launcher visual effects. Legendary fusion and linear fusion rifles now have distinct damage type charge visual effects. Cool. Near future. We are devoting a lot of energy to the Witch Queen expansion. And there are a ton of things changing in a few weeks, so we want to see how things shake out before deciding on future tuning. We'll be watching Season 15 launch closely and are ready to make some small adjustments as needed in the first half of the season. Sounds about right. More distant future, but still before the Witch Queen. Linear fusion rifles and caster frame swords are still not where we want them to be, so expect some tweaks. We're also looking at underused or underpowered exotics, and we'll be taking a pass at some of them, including Arbalest, Suros Regime, Cryosthesia, Malfeasance, and more. If you're having issues with spamming high rate of fire semi-automatic weapons as fast as possible, we've got something in the works for you. Okay. Priming a target and quickly swapping for cleanup is easier than we'd like, and we're looking at options for building towards faster swap speeds. We've got a step at hitting both of these points coming soon. Witch Queen and beyond. Talked previously about wanting legendary weapons to have more identity based on their source, and expect to ship a new system for this in or close to the Witch Queen. Season 15, we've tweaked exotic primary weapons to generate ammo faster through ammo finder mods. And we have another change planned to make them more enticing in hard PvE content. That's all we got for weapon changes now. We're looking forward to seeing how the PvP and PvE meta shape up once you all have your hands on them next week. Okay. I'm actually really interested and excited given all of those changes. Guns. We are still holding a lot of details on Season of the Redacted close to the chest, including the new Seasonal 15 arsenal that you will start to discover next week. We do want to show off some of other weapons you will be earning next season. Next season's ritual quest is a rocket launcher with the Explosive Light perk. As this is custom, you can then collect Gambit, Crucible, and Vanguard themed weapon ornaments by upgrading your rank in the vendors. That looks really neat, actually. We're adding 3 weapons as post-game rewards for completing Vanguard strikes. Gambit and Crucible matches. These will drop randomly after completing these activities with random rolls. I think we've got maybe a sniper, might be a scout. I don't know. Sidearm, it's a Suros, so it's probably going to be a fully auto sidearm. And I think that's an auto rifle. We also have plans to freshen up the loot pool of the Prophecy Dungeon. We've seen a lot of feedback to bring forward weapons' original reward from Trials of the Nine and thought that adding these to the 9-themed dungeon was a great fit. These weapons have been upgraded with random rolls, and certain ones will drop from specific encounters in the Prophecy Dungeon. Oh yeah. Hell yes. Give me my fucking long walk and all of my fucking shotgun, all of this. I am all about getting these back. Making these Prophecy Dungeon rewards is the perfect way to reintroduce some of my favorite weapons into the game. I am hella excited about that. On top of all these weapons, we're also updating the world pool with some fresh drops. Here are new weapons that you can expect to start seeing pop up in the wild. Oh, those are the two EDZ weapons. These are weapons you got from Devrim. That's, I don't remember their names, but it's auto rifle and sniper. We have a new monarchy. We have a new monarchy pulse that I can't remember the name of, and we have a dead orbit scout rifle. It's a Weist, so that's a good one. Hand cannon that looks kind of bleh, and a sidearm. This is some charity stuff. I highly recommend reading it. Is there anything else? Bungie artists. Let's see here. Issues, which I recommend going to read if you're curious about. Movies of the week. Artists of the week. 5 more sleeps until the reveal. You're more than welcome to join us for the main party on our channels, but if you have a community that you like watching reveals with, co-streaming is allowed for this event. We've been hyping this up, but at the same time, don't want to go overhype. Let's just say that you should expect at least one video and someone talking about Destiny. I've said too much. Listen, we're excited and hope you enjoy what we've been cooking up. See you next Tuesday. So on that note, chat, next Tuesday, I'm not going to be able to do a live co-stream of it. But if I can get away with it, we'll just do a rewatch Tuesday before we do Destiny, because next week and the following week are going to be Destiny only, just to hang out with the new season. But yeah, so there's the TWAB this week. Some hella interesting changes.